So I do want to introduce our moderator, Clement Hanami, who you saw in the episode and who is the art director here at the Japanese American National Museum. And he'll be joined by Dylan Robertson of ARTBOUND, as well as the folks that you saw featured in the episode, Eric Nakamura, Martin Wong, Renee Tajima-Peña, James Jean, and Daniel Wu, who are here. So I want to invite all of the folks up tonight and pass the mic over to Clement. Sorry, you get a stool.
In typical fashion, where is Eric Nakamura? Oh my goodness, this is definitely a who's who of Giant Robot. I want to thank you all for coming. Give yourselves a hand. So many familiar faces. It just reminds me, how Eric Nakamura has really, and Martin and Giant Robot was really always about community and family and creating this sense of belonging for a lot of people who didn't know where they belonged. So, and here. Okay, so now the conversation can begin. I don't think anyone here needs an introduction because everyone was introduced inside the film. And there were just so many wonderful points that everyone made. And so because of the short time, what we're going to focus on is really this idea of, for the panelists, what significance did GR or Giant Robot has had on your life and how has it impacted you and your work? So I guess we can start with Daniel.
Like I said in the film, it meant everything to me. I'm really emotional right now, actually. Because it did really mean a lot to me and a really important part of my life, this family of people. It just gave us a sense of belonging. Next.
Well, it actually continues to be a very important part of my life because I'm actually like Eric's neighbor now. After all these years of living elsewhere and traveling, and now I live in Japantown, and I see Eric all the time, and we text every day, and he's let me use his home as a secondary studio for my museum show that I did in 2019, my first big museum show, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very emotional journey seeing all that on screen. I know you haven't seen it. I know you were hiding out, and I could definitely see. Yeah, it is very emotional to see that passage of time and to see the rise and the fall and the ebb and flow of everything. I'm just very grateful now that you're still a very important part of my life and career, and I'm glad I get to see you all the time, and don't cry.
Renee?
Well, I was really honored they let me work with them on Skate Manzanar because I'm so uncool. And even though Eric was my neighbor, like he had nothing to do with me because I was so uncool. But I think what really I loved about Giant Robot, like back in the 90s, when it started all the way to 2010 is, and this is, and Viet Thanh Nguyen, if you're here, I know you're going to start charging me residuals because I use this quote all the time. He has said to young Vietnamese writers, write as if you're the majority. Don't write for white audiences, let them catch up with you. And that was Giant Robot. Giant Robot you wrote for yourselves, you wrote for us, and then the world caught up with you.
Hey, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm...
Oh, you don't have the mic on. Why don't you get mine?
Okay.
You're a filmmaker, you should know that.
It changed. There's so many of us in the audience that probably would say the same thing, which is reading Giant Robot changed my life. And for me, it did too. I still remember the day I picked up the first Giant Robot magazine. I was in college. And my family's from Hawaii. We grew up in culture, and I went back east for school, and I was studying, history, and it wasn't the history that I really liked, New England history. And I remember I picked up this magazine. Someone had left it there in the library, and it was like, snack foods and Lee Hing powder. And I was like, who left this here? It was like somebody had dropped it out of the heavens. And I think for many of us, it's like, and it combined anime, but films. I was a film guy, and the film guys didn't like anime, and the anime guys didn't like, the other culture stuff. And it spoke to me, and it spoke to so many of you. And I think, to your point, it presented a world from Martin and Eric that was the majority, that was counterculture. I think so much I was, academically, so much of it was discussed in terms of labor at the time. And suddenly they were presenting a worldview that presented the world through culture. And this was a culture that we could all be a part of and didn't apologize. Like, they could be Manzanar and donuts and, and my wife and I and all my friends, we would go to the art shows, and, it became a part of our lives. And I just feel honored that a small part that, everyone from Nick at PBS was able to make a film about it, because, I think it has a lot to say today, exactly you say, of how to present in the world and how to just enjoy the joy that came out of that magazine. We all wanted to be a part of it, right? And I'm just lucky that, all of us at PBS got to do it. And, everyone on the crew, just take a moment to thank everyone who worked on it. So.
Give you guys a shout out.
Yeah. Hey. If the crew could, wave their hands, so. Yeah.
Okay, and now, since Martin and Eric are very close to the story, it's been 28 years, and you can still see by the people that come out to see you guys, you still have had an impact and influence on their lives. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, what does it feel like when you have all this family and community that continue to support you, to continue to, because you've never asked for anything, you've never taken it, you've always been giving, being so generous. How does it feel when everyone seems to be giving back?
Hey, so I think, it makes sense for Eric, right? Because I think the film touched on this, but he kind of changed how art was made and sold and how artists could survive. When he opened GR2, there were no stores like that. There were so many artists that were doing rad stuff, but they had no outlets. And for him to take the DIY zine approach, indie approach, we're gonna make our own show, we're gonna take it on the road. But for art, was really rad. And the community is still there, right? He never left. The magazine ran its course, but he still operates that hub of indie artists and international artists. So of course they all love him still. I mean, come on. He's the heart of Sawtelle, but also of this whole scene of indie artists. A lot of them are Asian American, a lot are not. It doesn't matter, but they're all cool. And it's Giant Robot still lives in that way for sure,
Eric?
I think I'm almost mortified now, because it was a very different experience watching it in the overflow room. I'm surprised that people are emotional at all. I didn't expect that at all. And
what was it like? Were people throwing stuff at the screen or talking back, MST3K style, or what?
I was hoping for that, so I was happy to be there. But yeah, I didn't have as much emotion as all of you, and I'm almost mortified, because I'm oh no.
Did they have food on that side?
There will be.
Oh,
there will be. Yeah. I don't know. It was just I didn't have that same feeling. Sorry about that. I didn't answer the question, but yeah, I'm really touched by it. I didn't expect it at all. I left thinking, oh, that was really fun. That was amazing. Okay, awesome. I come in here and I'm you guys are tearing up, and I'm very mortified. I haven't seen you guys do that before, and they're close friends, and I'm no. So.
Well, I think part of it is what was said in the film is that you guys were just doing it. We're all doing it. We're all part of this, doing this thing, and we didn't think about what kind of impact it was going to make. And then you sit here and watch it, and you watch it years later, and you go, holy shit, there was a huge impact. And the weight of it was so much, and that's why it started to just like get me so emotional as I started to watch it. And realize, like, now that you look back on it, after all, it was all said and done for, you look at it and go, wow, that was really something. You know, this whole, all these little things that you guys did and allowed us to do collectively mean really something really important in the culture, in the history, in everything, from just like the physicality of Sawtelle and what it is now, what it was before you guys got there, you know, magazine, Asian culture, film, all of it. You had a little piece of it all, and you were planting seeds everywhere.
Well, I think it's kind of, one thing about the magazine is it's not like, oh, we suddenly started liking Hong Kong movies or Japanese robot toys or junk food because of the magazine. Like, we were all into that before. Like, we'd go to Jabberjaw like 3 or 4 nights a week, and we'd go to the Garfield to watch Hong Kong movies, and we'd go to, you know, Comic-Con. We'd do all these things before. And then during the magazine, we did that too, right? But afterwards, we still do those things. Like, Eric still goes to art shows. This week, I went to, like, I saw Otoboke Beaver last night. I went to the Kid Congo Powers book signing the night before. Tomorrow, I'm seeing the Linda Linda. Like, you know, like, we still do these things. It's still our life. And, like, we feel like this time of Giant Robot came and left. And, like, you know, I always say it's like a fart in the wind. You know, it happened. And but then you watch this and you're like, wow, that was a really good fart. That was a juicy one, you know? A lot of people smelled it.
And everyone's laughing.
A good fart.
Go ahead, Dylan. Did you want to add to that, or?
I mean, you know, for the next generations, because my kid, actually, the first set, he was just a baby. First film set he was on was Skate Manzanar. And then because of your influence, like, the first movie he saw, he was only like a toddler, was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I mean, people thought, why are you showing a 3-year-old? But he loved it. At the first deck, I think, do you do decks? Skateboard decks? Do you design? Yeah, I think it's one of your deck. It was his first skateboard deck. So, and I used to, like, some moms have to make Halloween costumes. I used to have to make this weird shit for Anime Expo, like these weird heads and everything. But so he was really, and Giant Robot just influenced this whole, you know, generation. They might have had a completely uncool mom, but they, you know, my kid and his generation just are doing what you're doing today, except they're not your age.
Also, importantly, they're not outsiders anymore, you know?
Yeah. But that's terrible, right? You're not an outsider anymore.
Oh, I mean,
Well, I think that when the magazine, you know, in 2010, like, when we finally, like, this isn't doable anymore, it's like, I kind of had the feeling, oh, well, we made it. Like, it's okay. You know, BTS is selling out the Rose Bowl. And, you know, anime and manga's at every single library. That's cool, right? We won. But then, like, a couple years ago, like, there's Asian hate crimes, you know, and there's, it was really fucked up. You know, like, all these things are happening against Asians. A lot of, you know, phobias, you know, and then on top of that, you got coronavirus and everything, the China virus, all this stuff going on. And I was like, damn, we didn't do anything. Like, the magazine ended, and now, like, we're being attacked in the streets. You know, like, it's not cool. And I felt like, wow, we really didn't do anything after 68 issues. Like, we did squat. But then, I don't know, like, that video, my daughter's band came out, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're okay, you know? We'll be all right. I'm not bummed anymore. Like, you know, I don't know, maybe there is something. Maybe we did do something. I don't know. Like, there's some sort of germ that we left out there for a lot of people, hopefully. I don't know.
Well, I think it was the fact that people felt empowered to stand up and not just take that shit anymore. That was another seed you guys planted. So, you know, that your daughter and her friends decided to write that song is one of those things that sprouted from this seed of, like, we got empowered from Giant Robot.
It was really cool to see that concert at Hollywood Bowl. I did the poster for that concert because, for free, because I knew that was going to be like a really important moment. And,
Well, yeah, the funny thing is, like, one of our big high water marks for Giant Robot was the block party right here, in this cul-de-sac before a lot of this was built. And we had, it was for JANM, right? And we had like junk food, we had robot toys, we had issue paraphernalia, but we had the Red Ants, Jade Church, Muddy Mark playing. And we thought that was like the greatest thing in the world. Just like we thought, Kicking Giant and Emily's Sassy Lime, Emily's here somewhere, or Seam, or some of these other gigs we put together. We thought they were so great. And they were, but come on. Yeah, yeah, yeahs, and Japanese Breakfast and Linda Linda's at the Hollywood Bowl was kind of something else. And I think it's telling that it's largely women that did it, Like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. And James, I got some more of those posters for you to sign after this. So. Don't sneak out.
Eric knows where to find me. So.
Okay, going back to the film, are there any comments as far as like the art making, Dylan, about how you went about making this film and trying to find a narrative thread for the entire picture?
It's a daunting challenge. It's 15 years, 68 issues, 10,000 pages plus. My living room, shout out to my wife, for 2 months, every issue was laid out over our living room. and I'll say one thing that's interesting, making most people here today probably, or not this audience, but a lot of people who see this film will have never read the magazine. And there'll be an entire generation that doesn't read magazines. And to make a film about a magazine, we started to scan things and put it in and do digital. And one of the things that we suddenly realized was like, oh, this actually has to be a physical document. And so a lot of the moves on the magazine are analog, it's our hands flipping pages. We wanted to give you the experience one last time of actually feeling like you read it. And so, we didn't do some amazing push in. We literally, you see it gets closer to the camera. Maybe, and I think that was also something important to us, that, we're of that last generation, that tactile quality, and, what it meant to us all to hold those magazines in our hands. So that was, one thing. And I think the other thing that was important to us in terms of the interviews is you got that sense of fun. And so we worked really hard for the camera and the interviews that everyone's sort of in their space as portraits. You're sitting on the floor, like everyone's in that space, and you got that sense of joy, because you all talk about that fun of Giant Robot that you wanted to be a part of.
You made me stand in front of a Heart Mountain incarceration camp barrack.
I'm sorry. But you said cool stuff. She had the coolest lines of ever. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I actually heard some of Renee's line. They couldn't make the film because they were too profane. I will say in 2008, when we actually did the first Giant Robot show, there was a Takashi Murakami show happening at MoCA, and there were lines across the block, blocking our entrance, and we were just going like, man, what is it? What do we have to do? And that's when I first met Eric, and he did the show like literally in 2 months, and the rest was history. We did, 4 biennales. We also did a lot of boutique shows, including Zen Garage. I think Len Higa's here somewhere, and Supernatural. So, he was just a maven and a pop icon, very creative. And so before we get into questions, I think I want to let Eric have the last word about the future of Giant Robot Media.
We're done already?
Huh?
We're done already? Anyway.
No. There's going to be a big party across the street, so
my God.
we got to go over there before the food gets cold.
I just want to say thank you to Dylan and KCET for this film, because I couldn't expect it to come out as well as it did. It's really amazing. It's a really like a crazy time travel journey. I had long hair, I forgot, like just things like that. Then all of a sudden it's shaved off, and I'm like, oh, well, that's right, I had that too. But more than that, just you captured it really nicely. It's hard for me to like, how do you encapsulate that much time and all his 28 years total so far, and how do you capture all that? And I just felt like you did capture it in, under 60 minutes, and it's just impossible. It's really impossible. And you did such a beautiful job. It's very amazing. And anyways, I just wanted to say thank you. That's aside for the future or whatever you want to say. I'm not really nostalgic, so I have a problem with that, but like really not. And I feel good about this, like, you know, like really good. But yeah, I just started off really not, I'm still not nostalgic. You know what I mean? But for me to see this is just like really amazing, because I'm all, you know, just like, whoa, that's crazy. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm really minimizing probably the true value, but it's just it was really amazing, and I'm just thankful. That's all. And I could keep repeating it, but yeah, and I'm thankful for all the people who got interviewed. And there's a lot who didn't, who were interviewed and got cut out or didn't even get interviewed at all. Like the story is even bigger. If you want to get into it, the story is much, much larger than that, what you saw, you know? And that's the hard part. And it's like, maybe there's more to it, you know, if you want to get into
Director's cut.
Yeah, I think that one of the lessons that comes out is that, you know, every age is kind of a golden age, right? Like we missed out on a lot of things by just a little bit. Like, you know, we didn't get to go to the Hong Kong Cafe to see, you know, the Germs and Alice back then. We didn't get to do a lot of stuff, right? But we took this time that we had and like we put it in a magazine and flew the flag like it was the most awesome, amazing thing, and we shared it with everyone. And, you know, I think we still do that today, you know, in our own respective ways or whatever we're all doing. Everyone at this, you know, all of us up here, and a lot of you out there too are doing just rad stuff every day. So hopefully, you know, this just empowers people to just go for it and do the stuff you love and to share it and grow it, you know, and grow culture, you know, and make it happen.
Very good. So with that, are there any questions from the audience after seeing that amazing film? And we have all these wonderful panelists here.
Okay, let's go eat.
So when you were doing the website for the thing, I mean, I never really saw the website through the whole process, but how did that go? And what happened to giantrobot.media? Like, did that was another part of the whole process of building towards digital market that didn't work well?
That was like more recent, right? I think that was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Just did it for 1 year, and the person I was doing that with, his name is George. He wanted to move on to being a professional pianist, which is what he does, right? He's a professional pianist, and it's like, I think that was his real calling. But we did that for 1 year, and it was really fun. We did a lot in 1 year, like amazing. And I was ready to go to year 2. Like we had a meeting, and I was like, okay, now we just got started. Let's do year 2. I'm ready. And I laid out this long. We had a meeting, and I was like, I got an idea. Here's what we're gonna do, and here's you know, we practiced, and then at the end of that meeting, he goes, I want to stop doing this, and I was like, fuck. I was like, you got me excited after 1 year. I was like thinking, okay, we're ready. Now we're ready, you know. But that's what happened.
When Wendy was on, she was doing the website, she mentioned Doc. Was that a part? Didn't hear much about that. Is that not something?
What do you mean? We had a website. Is that what you mean, or?
Well, you guys had a community, right?
Oh.
There was a website, a part of Giant Robot, that I think flourished, and
Oh, that was a weird part. Yeah, it's called the Lounge, and the loungers are. There was not. I guess online at that time was weird. There was less communities, I think, online, and that we were one of them. We were like a message board, and tons of people met there, became friends. People got married. It was like this life of its own that was outside of the magazine. Sometimes we were invited to things, oftentimes not. And I'm like, oh, they had this big get together. We weren't even invited, you know? And it was just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it had its own life, and it still exists. It's on Facebook. And there's so many people who, yeah, just got together, and they're still lifelong friends. People passed away on there. Like literally, you know, it's like some of the people that, you know, we've seen like whole life cycles on that message board, and it's still just one of the weirdest things. But it feels like it's almost away from the magazine. But I don't think Wendy designed that, right? We've done other parts that were cool, but like really cool. But yeah, that was sort of this weird thing. I don't know what you call it. It's like a phenomenon of its own.
It was like a mutant strain, where we just left this thing out there and it kind of grew off on its own, and yeah, way beyond us in terms of geekiness. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you, Eric, and everybody. My kids grew up at Giant Robot, so I really just feel like a part of this community. Artists have embraced my children. They have grown up with this. It's beautiful and moving and touching. And Eric, I'm gonna get you to cry.
Now?
Right now. Right now.
How?
I don't.
More.
Kate, help me out.
Oh, okay. But thank you so much.
It's the truth.
No, but I think there's definitely a strong community around art of all sorts. I mean, that's kind of how I think a lot of people are just growing up now. It's a whole different thing. I didn't grow up with art galleries. When I was a little kid, it was not accessible. And I think the idea is to make it more accessible. And there's a lot of other things to make more accessible. Music should be more accessible. Everything should be. Languages are. So it's just happening little by little. But thank you.
Should I give the mic to Kate?
Thank you so much. You guys make us feel so cool. It's so great. I'm wondering, is there a chance that there's going to be a digital archive of all the magazines, of all the issues? We need it. We need it.
It's a big project. How do you do it? Oh, I was asked by one, and they wanted it parked on some strange website, so I didn't want to do that. But yeah, like it was like they wanted they wanted it sort of.
Wait, more importantly, you're going to ask how much does it cost, right?
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
They say it's free, but I don't know. I don't know.
I'll say that if anybody does want to read a Giant Robot magazine, you can always contact our collections research department and make an appointment. And thanks to Eric, we have every copy.
I think there's libraries that have it, like UCLA libraries have it. But I mean, that's not the way we.
But you can access us.
Yeah, it's true.
I think we have 3 sets.
We'll get to it. That's what I want. I do want to do that at some point. We'll see.
I just want to say that film was so inspiring and beautiful as someone who does work in, Asian American media and Asian media. And I'm, noticing that there is a gap that's left now since Giant Robot is no longer in publication. And so I'm curious, where do you all turn now for Asian media, Asian culture? I mean, it's like there's a lot more splintering than there used to be.
Yeah, or as we call it, just culture. I think, I think it's everywhere, right? I mean, it's everywhere. You can't not have culture, especially if you surround yourself with people who do cool stuff.
Well, as someone who's really immersed in social media now, I do feel like there is this missing, part of experiencing the world through something that's more counterculture, like Giant Robot was, like this kind of not secret, but like this cool thing that not everyone knew about, and that felt like it was written for me. And there is nothing like that.
I think there's less surprises now, right?
Yeah, there's less
because the computers, they all figured out what you like and they point you in that direction. But let's say you're super into comics, super comic nerd. Maybe you're not into gnarly, right. I don't know, grindcore.
I was in that WizKids article, by the way.
You were?
No, but I could have been. That's why I got rejected in the beginning.
Yeah. But you know what? One thing that the video reminded me of is at Oxy Arts. There's that exhibit on Asian arts and activism. It's still up for a while longer, and Chris, the curator, is here somewhere. So you can see some of those artifacts there as well as here at JANM. Check that out for sure, because it goes all the way back to Ghidra, which is something that Eric and I were into, from the beginning, right? And to see Giant Robot connected with that was pretty awesome, I thought.
But, I would add that there are Asian communities in Alabama and Indiana and Maine. They're all over the place. And there are young Asian Americans, Hmong, Mien, Cambodian, just all different nationalities, Burmese. And they are creating culture. We just haven't seen it yet because, we're kind of in this sometimes in this West Coast, East Coast bubble, but they're doing it.
But I think one of the coolest things we did though was to find like Asian culture in Mexico, like Calexico, right, or Mexicali, or Chinese Jamaicans. You know, to find it in places like that is something that was really important. I thought that wasn't talked about a lot. That intersectionality, you know, back then, not a lot of it going on. So, yeah, it's definitely in weird pockets, including the South. You know.
Weird.
Thank you for.
This is Jenny Shimizu.
Everybody, well,
Everybody. Issue 10 covers.
Wow, you know, I got to treat these guys a lot nice. I didn't realize, but I did. I realized the outreach and the politics involved, and the writing was incredible. And that's why I read every single story. I didn't even care what it was about because you guys are so funny and fucked up and rad, you know? But my question is, I guess, Martin and Eric, what was the biggest, I guess, fight you had about something to do with the magazine? And if there ever was one, and also what was your biggest experience when you were like, whoa, like we really did something important here, like, you know.
I usually leave it to other people to say what's important or not, but I think there's some moments that happened where I was thinking, oh, like the issue you were in, especially, I was like, oh, this is really important. People love this. It hits on different levels and for different people. But I think at the same time, it's hard to, you know, I don't celebrate myself as like anything. So it's one of those things.
You got invited to the White House. Isn't that something like, oh, I kind of did something?
3 times, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it's whatever.
0.
Even then.
0.
You know? Yeah. No, I'm fighting. I mean, no, I don't know.
Right now, I didn't go. How come you didn't take me? What's up?
No, I think maybe I'm impatient, but I think he's patient. So there's like a lot of like, we're like 2 pieces of a puzzle, and we fit pretty well. And that's kind of how the magazine kind of could keep going and going for 16 years.
Yeah, I think as a publisher, right, his gift was having ideas and a vision and pushing it. And he kind of comes from like an entrepreneurial family, right, that would start a restaurant, build buildings or furniture, and, you know, like building things, making things, hiring people, growing it. And like me coming from an editorial background, my job is just to make other writers look awesome, you know, or to be in the background. It's not really about me. So I think it kind of worked out that way, you know, like we had that good relationship that way.
And no more mom jokes. You do.
Okay, with that was
That's the last word?
Great
Oh, no.
question. And of course, it's a love affair between Martin and Eric. We can tell. so that was a perfect way to end the conversation here.
That was such a lame answer. Like you're like digging like at our scabs, trying to make something cool happen.
Yeah, sorry.
No pull quote. Sorry. It's like, yeah.
I like the 3 times to the White House. That's a good Eric answer. So with that, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I want to thank our panelists. Dylan, Renee, Martin, Eric, James, and Daniel. There's going to be a whole lot more stories being told when we go to the other side. There's going to be a reception where we have some light food and drink for everyone to enjoy and partake in. And again, thank you all for coming. Thanks to KCET and PBS and ARTBOUND for producing this great movie. And creating a lasting document of this whole experience. So thank you.